Hello, ladies and gents. So when I am back on Wednesday, we'll have a little bit of a discussion about the Indomet coal project and a little bit of debate about whether we think that should go ahead. But to help you move on from there to our second example, I'm just going to run through some key information about the River Exe, which is our local river case study example. So our drainage basin example. So we have two major case studies in water and carbon cycles. The first is our tropical rainforest, which in this case is the Indonesian rainforest, and the second is the River Exe. And the big difference, I guess, between GCSE and A-level is how we use these examples. So at GCSE, you would have got marks for kind of the knowledge and understanding, whereas the switch very much is over to application of knowledge, interpretation, analysis, and evaluation of information. So how we use those case studies needs to change a little bit. So we need to have factual information that we can use to support examples and to back up what we are saying. But we also need to have a kind of awareness of the pros and cons of different ideas and different things and the impacts it has at different scales. So we're going to start off just by looking firstly at kind of factual information about the River Exe. So you've got some key sort of facts and figures to throw in. And we're then going to look at a couple of projects that have made changes to the River Exe, namely the Wimbleball Reservoir project and the Exmoor Myers project. Because, as I said, there is a big change and the importance of application analysis in the A-level is what really sort of is the difference. So you need to be able to apply your knowledge in unfamiliar contexts. So that means you need to have a very secure knowledge of your case studies, but it does mean that you should be able to kind of interpret information and use that example to back up what you're saying. So in terms of the key knowledge for our river catchments, obviously we need the knowledge of the water cycle of a drainage basin. That's our kind of key theory. We need to understand the different characteristics of a drainage basin. Having a knowledge of the water balance and the water balance equation is useful. Likewise, having a knowledge of hydrographs and storm hydrographs, very useful. And the factors that influence a hydrograph, both human and physical. And for this one, we're going to be having a look at a few maps. So the map skills are going to be your kind of key skills that you will be using there. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the drainage basin of the River Exe. And you can see it is starting off in the north, up on Exmoor, and it then proceeds all the way down to the south to the English Channel. And you can see that marked on with a 1, 2 and 3 are some of the larger towns and cities there. So Exeter, Exmouth and Tiverton. And you can see it's quite a sort of narrow shaped, long, thin drainage basin. So that is kind of where it is within the country. Some key facts about it. It is 600 square kilometres in terms of the area that is drained by the River Exe. And its highest point is 540 metres above sea level, and it goes obviously right down to sea level down in the south. And the source, as I said, is in the north, up on Exmoor. The geology of the area is largely impermeable rock. It's called Devonian sandstone, which is an impermeable rock, and that makes up, roughly speaking, about 85 to 90% of the area. So that means, because the rock is impermeable, that the response to rainfall is likely to be fairly flashy, as the water is not going to be able to permeate down through into the bedrock and percolate through. There is quite a lot of agricultural land in the area. In the north, it's going to be mostly things like sheep farming that's taking place up on Exmoor. And then as you move further south, it becomes more arable land. And also in the north, there is quite a large bog area of peat bog in Exmoor. And indeed, when we move on to looking at the Exmoor Myers project, we will see that this is an area that is being regenerated or returned back to the natural peat bog, partly as it helps to control the water levels, but also partly as it is a good carbon sink. And there have been some changes to the river, recent changes. We're talking about the last kind of 30 to 40 years. So there have been some changes. One of those is the Wimbleball Reservoir, which you can see in the picture on the right here. And the second of those is the Exmoor Myers project. So the first of those, the reservoir, there's a little video which is on slide 8 of this presentation. So if you can watch that little video, it's just a kind of aerial view of the reservoir area to give you a bit of an overview of what it looks like and where it is. So if you'd like to pause this video and look at that, watch that little video for the reservoir and then come back to this one, that would be good. So hopefully you have seen that little video. So you've got a bit of an overview of what the area looks like. In terms of where the Wimbleball Reservoir is, you can see it is up in the north, so up near the source of the river, but it is just on the edge of Exmoor National Park as well. And you can see it's above Tiverton and Exeter in terms of where it sits in the drainage basin, so can be used to control the water flow down to these urban areas. So the reservoir was completed in 1979, and to make the reservoir, they flooded 150 hectares of moorland. The main reason for creating the reservoir was that they wanted to sort of have a better water supply for Exeter and Eastern Devon. So they created the reservoir as a water store for these areas. But now it is also there and is used to prevent flooding and to regulate the river flow in this region, and particularly to stop flooding in kind of the larger urban areas, so Exeter, for example. So I'd like you now to have a little look at the information on page 52 and 53. And under each subheading that they've got on page 52 and 53, I would like you to pick out 5 key pieces of information from the case study that you could potentially use as something to support an argument. So 5 key bits of information from each of those subheadings that you could use, and I would like you to write those down or make notes of them, or indeed if you want to put it in a presentation or do it on a computer, you can do. So 5 key pieces of information from each subheading on page 52 and 53. And when you have finished those 5 key pieces of information for each subheading, have a look at question number 1, which is the skills question. And you will need to interpret data from the graph, which I think is figure 3. And remember, when you're answering this question, look at what the command words are, work out what information you should include, and try to assess how much you should write for this. Question 1, I would say, is probably going to be a 6 marker in an exam, so try to assess how much you should be writing for that, and then indeed answer the question. And then using those skills from question 1, attempt questions 2 to 4. And again, try to make reference to the case study and those 5 key pieces of information. And we will go through those on Wednesday when I return. Thank you very much, ladies and gents, and I will see you on Wednesday.